All right, share. So now that we're in the Perfecto platform, right? So you'll see here, it's, virtually no startup effort one. It's basically you'll get a login and a password to your cloud, and you'll be able to see these tiles here. So we'll be playing mostly in the manual testing tab over here, and we'll be able to go through the devices. But before we do that, I will touch on some of the other things that we have. So the scriptless automation, right? This is, helping build automation in a more tool, click, plug and play kind of fashion, without needing code at all. So these are really geared towards those business testers that you want to contribute to automation that might not necessarily have the coding knowledge to do so. So that's really the target market for this scriptless automation. And then test analysis will go into the reporting that we'll see later today, giving you all the artifacts, whether it be screenshots, videos, and again, like I alluded to, there's some AI behind this that helps you identify the errors of the automation you do run across Perfecto devices. Assets and setup, that's just, admin module for, controlling your cloud, who has access to what, scheduling things, etc. And then down here, some things worth noting, right? We can work with any of your frameworks, Appium, Selenium, Espresso, XUI, Quantum, Cypress, and even ones not listed on here, but these will give you quick getting started help links. There's code samples in our GitHub. These will all be help documentation that you can access, even more documentation under the documentation tab, and as well as contacting support. So I'll mention this now. Our support is 24/7. So anytime you need to talk to anybody, you can open a support ticket and someone should respond to you very shortly. I know our high priority items, I want to say it's like a 15-minute SLA. So there are people there to talk to you when you need it, depending on what the issue is, but good to know. We're not just, letting you loose and hoping, you adopt this yourselves. There are lots of people to help. All right, so let's go into the manual testing tab over here. So when we look at Perfecto, let's go to all mobile devices just so I can show you. So these are real devices sitting in data centers all over the world. So as you can see, there's a good assortment of, Android, iOS, iPads, tablets. There's some other phones on here. So there's a wide range of phones we support, as well as you'll see on the left over here, we have web licenses as well as virtual devices. So now if we go back into the list view, you'll see each of the locations on which these devices are residing in. So US East location, Boston Data Center, US West is our Phoenix Data Center, Canada, outside of Toronto, I believe, UK, London, and then there should be a Frankfurt, Germany data center as well. And our last one would be Australia, if I can find a phone in Australia, right here. So, 6 data centers all across the world. These are real phones sitting in those locales. Some things to note off the top, right? So if audio is enabled, there'll be a check mark by the audio sign here. So these are the phones where you can do those types of, audio phone call type of tests, if you're recording responses, etc. And then SIM cards, though, is what you'll also need for these. So if you're doing, again, phone calls, texting, things like that. Let's look at this phone, for example. You'll see it's tied to the AT&T network, and this is the phone number for that. So these are, again, real phones with real SIM cards attached to a number. A quick thing to mention, because usually people ask me this when I mention this, is there are 2 models, right? There's a public cloud versus a private cloud. Now, the public cloud is a pool of 120 devices that is on a first-come, first-served basis. So, and the way we stock that pool is by the most popular devices by region. And we actually do a test coverage index guide that shows you, off the survey that we did, the most popular devices of each region, and then we try to stock it. That gives you, I think, 80% coverage of a market of the region. So, and that coverage guide or that index is free for you to download. Actually, the 2022 index just came out, so it gives you kind of a good idea of, what regions are using what types of phones and what are the most popular for consumers today. So that's how the public cloud is stocked. And in that public cloud, right, SIM cards won't be attached to those. So when you have, some more enterprise use cases such as, SIM cards enabled and things like that, that might put you in the private pool. And that would be a pool completely dedicated to you, right? So you stock that cloud based on exactly what your needs are. And you can either ship those devices or we'll purchase them on your behalf. And now you have a pool of devices that are only accessible to you and your team only. So those are, just the high level differences between the two. Now there's a lot more, but just to get kind of a level set on the two different models. All right, so now that we are in here, let's open some devices. We'll open this one and let's do an iPhone. Let's do this iPhone over here. All right, so again, real devices opening in the cloud as you'll see here. So if we go to this Galaxy, for example, let's say, I want to do some sort of QR, for example. So the way you install apps, you can do them multiple ways, right? You could install the APK IPA from the repository, and you'll see here, these are all the apps that have been installed on this zone. So now let's say, I want to install an APK that I uploaded to our repository, and you can pull this from here. So let's say I want to install this QR barcode scanner. I'll click next here, and to be able to do some of those more advanced automation flows, such as fingerprint or image injections, camera images simulating the camera, you will need to turn this sensor instrumentation on. And if it is a hybrid app and you want to be able to identify different UI elements, you'll be able to turn this on as well. But we'll just do the sensor instrumentation to show the image injection flow. So we'll install that app here. So as you'll see here, the application installed successfully, and now I want to use camera while using the app. So as you can see here, this is, a phone in the data center, so it's pointed towards some screen or monitor. So this isn't anything we actually want to capture, but what we can do here is we can inject images to simulate that type of scanning action. So let's say I want to inject a QR code that takes me to the Perfecto website. I will inject this image, and you'll see it pop over on the left over here. And now scan the QR code, gave me the link to the Perfecto website. I can click on this from here and now continue my testing. So again, simulating camera capture. We can take screenshots on the left over here if you are manually testing, and these can be downloaded at the end. But let's talk through a few flows here. So one thing I do want to point out is our object spy. So maybe many of you are familiar with Appium Inspector. So on top of the Appium object tree, we provide the Perfecto Object Spy. So what this is, it actually gives you smart locators for these elements. So if we see here, what it does is it has some simple algorithm running in the background that is designed to help you identify a unique identifier. So in your scripts, you can use these smart locators to identify these different elements. Now, the value add here is that we not only can identify elements within your app, but as you can see, we can identify elements outside of the app as well. So if I want to identify, this browser home page, for example, or home button, so not only can you automate flows within your app, but you can do the full end-to-end. So if you had an app where you're going from the settings back into your app or vice versa, our Perfecto Object Spy can help you identify those items as well. All right, so, and let's say, for some reason, whether it be Appium Inspector or if you're using the Object Spy, but you're not liking the locators here, or they're not as stable as you'd like them to, we also do have OCR capabilities. So as you'll see here, we'll do a search by text. So let's say I want to find Perfecto. I will click find here, and it should find Perfecto on the screen. And it actually can give you the command for that as well. So let's say this wasn't the Perfecto I wanted it to find, though I actually wanted the Perfecto of the website. What I can do is I can add parameters here. So I could add a haystack to narrow the area in which I'm searching. So let me drag this down a little bit. Let's say I just want to search the web page itself. I'll hit find again. And it should find the Perfecto within the website. There we go. And let's say now I want to create this find command. I'll hit next, and now it will give you the command itself for finding this text through text analysis. And we have the same type of OCR capabilities for image as well. As you can see over here, you can, upload an image that you expect to find on the screen and create the command very similarly. And once identified, you can copy that script over in whichever language. So there are many, options to solving the, how to find element problem, but this is just highlighting some of the out-of-the-box capabilities that we do have. Now, in terms of, I remember what I forgot to mention was, if I do have automation, how do I integrate these cloud devices to my scripts? So if we go into information over here, the capabilities, and this is actually on this tab as well, so I'll mention that. So every time you click on a phone, you'll be able to see the capabilities here, and actually we'll give you the scripts that you can just put in your configuration file to hit the devices that you want. So if we go by device attribute, you can use as many or as little of these as you need. So if I only care that I'm hitting an Apple device, and it doesn't matter which iPhone or what model or what platform version, I could literally just put manufacturer in there and it'll pull any Apple device that's available. But if I really need to get really specific and need to access this specific Apple iPhone 13, I can also pull by device ID and it will only look for that device itself. So again, we give you, the scripts, you can essentially just copy and paste them over, and you should be able to hit these devices. Again, there's, some parameters such as, the cloud URL as well as the security token. But once those are configured, you can pull these scripts and put them in your test runner and be able to hit these devices. So another flow I wanted to show you, right, was the location injection. So let's see, allow. Okay, maybe don't allow. Okay, so let's see here. So as you'll see here, this is where our phone currently is in. Or maybe I was supposed to allow that. Our phone's currently in near our Boston data center, right? So let's say, I need to simulate the location of this phone. A powerful use case for this might be, let's say, you're a bank who needs to find ATMs near me, right? But you don't want just the ATMs wherever this phone's sitting. You need to simulate you're an actual customer out and about in the world. So let's say I want to be in Los Angeles, for example. I can type in any location. You can do it by coordinates. I just do it by city, and you can insert that location, and you'll see where I'm located moves. So my current location moves based on the location that I inject here on the right. So that this way you're really able to test out those flows in locales that you're not really in, which is exciting for those different use cases that need those types of location-based testing. Another thing to note, right, installing apps. Let's say I want to install from the App Store. So as you can see here, you can install apps from the App Store, and let's say I just want to install like a network test. So you'll see I can go in the App Store, search for my app, and get the speed test. Install. Oh, the password. Let's see if I know it. So I think it's it might not be this. Essentially, right, but you could install this app with the Apple ID that's associated with you. I got the password wrong, as I suspected, but essentially, as you can see, you can install the apps from the App Store based on the Apple ID that's associated with. Another thing to note here is that you can actually look at the device logs as well. As you see, you can download these. You can enable these device logs to be recorded through your automation session. So you can have these as well as device vitals. So I can start and monitor, the CPU usage, the memory used, the network in, network out. And when we talk about network simulations, right, you can actually virtualize the network to be any of these pre-denoted profiles that you see here. So 2G poor, 2G good, to 4G LTE. You can also customize it, right? So you could say, if you know the latency and the packet loss and the bandwidth in and out that you want, you could set your own network that you would need to simulate. So there's different ways to simulate the network over here. Another thing to note, right? So dev tunnel. Dev tunnel is what I would describe as, the longest USB cable in the world. What this enables you to do is actually debug locally. So once you download the dev tunnel installer, and you only have to do it once, but then once you connect dev tunnel to your machine, now it will act as if this cloud device is actually locally tethered to your machine. So you can, so developers can debug right off this phone, even though it's, not actually near them. Lastly, file transfers. Let's say there's a file on this device that you want to put in the repository, or vice versa. You can transfer files from the repository to the device, or from the device to the repository. So again, there's, private or public, or you could have, a shared with your group folder. So you can transfer files that way. And so with manual testing, again, screenshots on the right. Here, let's X the vitals over here. You can take screenshots, and once you've done manual testing, what you can do is you can actually either discard the test results if this wasn't a test that you wanted to perform, but you can also mark them as passed or failed. So once you're done performing your manual test, let's say I name this demo pass. Give it a test name, and on private devices, you can clean up the device on release, and it'll, delete the app off of it, delete, artifacts, and reset it to its original state. And in private cloud, you would check this if you wanted it to do that. But in public cloud, it automatically does that. So some things to note there. And then you can copy this link to the clipboard and view it in your report library, which we'll show next. But I will end and release this device. And I will end and release this device as well. And I'll mark this as failed, demo fail. And I could give a failure description, UI bad, or something like that. And I will clean this device up and copy this to the clipboard. Oh, and another thing to note is you could end and start a new test. So you don't have to end and release the device. So if you're a manual tester and you're just, cranking out manual tests, and you want the report saved, but you don't want to release the device itself, you can end and start a new test. So, but I'll end and release since I'm not doing any more testing here. All right, so that was the mobile flows. We will go through the reporting, and then we'll look at the Q&A if there's any questions. So I will go through the reporting now, but if you have a question, please ask it in the chat, and then we'll kind of start cranking through those questions after this. So in terms of test analysis, you'll see here, these gives you a high-level view of your jobs that so this is called your CI dashboard. So whether you triggered this from any of your pipelines, or you triggered a job from your script, either way, these are the high-level views of the jobs that you ran on your cloud. Now this is the demo cloud, so this is our internal cloud. It has a lot of congestion, a lot of noise, but for your cloud it would be your runs and your runs only. So as you'll see here, it gives you how many you've ran, how many passed, how many failed. This gives you a results history. So each of these bars represents a job run, and you'll be able to see if your builds are improving or not based on whether or not these are turning more green, or if they're getting worse, they'll turn more red. And as you'll see here, this is a duration history over time. So you'll be able to see each of these dots represents a job run as well, and it shows you how long it took for each job to run. So you'll be able to now more accurately estimate, how long your job should be taking. What you want is really a steady line such as this, right? You'll be able to see, my job minutes if it was this one, but depending on how long your jobs take. But if you're seeing a sudden spike like this, let's say a 21-minute job all of a sudden took an hour and 4 minutes, might be something worth looking into, right? So it just gives you kind of that high-level view of what's going on with your jobs itself, how they're performing, the tests you ran, how many passed, how many failed, etc. So again, just a quick at a glance, how are the jobs performing view. Insights is a very similar view in the sense that it gives you the high-level view of your cloud and how your tests are performing across the cloud. So on the left over here, it'll give you, failures by category, right? Scripting, orchestration, lab, if your app crashed, etc. Again, congested view because it is demo cloud. So these are kind of skewed views of what a real cloud errors would look like. But as you can see, it gives you the idea of, the history and trends of the test itself, how many passed, how many failed. You can add the trend lines in here to see, are my passes going up? Are my failures going down, etc. And you'll see on the right over here the most common issues. So what were the most common failure reasons, the tests with the most failures, the most common exception, the most common blocked reason, etc. So it gives you a lot of those high-level views, and you can actually filter these views. So let's say I care about this month, I could filter to the whole month, or if I care about the quarter, I could add a custom view and say, I want to go back and add 3 months back from today, etc. Or I can look at the devices over here, so I could filter by the devices that I need or the jobs. Some people might enjoy filtering by the owner of the test itself, so let's say I only want to look at tests I ran, whether it be a developer or a tester. You can filter by that and just see how your tests or what you ran, how are performing, job number, etc. So there's a number of different filters you can add in here to customize these views. And then you can save these views to reference later. So if there's a certain type of filter that shows you the insight that you need for certain reports, you can save that, those filtered views, and then be able to access them very quickly later. Heat map, another visual view. So this allows you to group items by different filters as you see. Let's say I want to group by device model, for example, and then group item by, let's say, test. Or should we do test? Yeah, let's do test. So as you can see here, well, this is demo, so maybe this wasn't a great view to show you, but you'll see the different tests that I've run across the different types of devices, and you'll see the tests that I've ran within them. So let me see, maybe we should filter by, let's do by browser and then by test. That might be a better one to show you. All right, so let's say, for example, in this one, my report end-to-end validation test is performing way better than my remote WebDriver test in Chrome versus, in Edge, this Edge test failed versus the test click is doing better. So as you can see, it gives you kind of that high-level view of, pass to fail, red's bad, green's good, and you can filter these any which way you like. Again, the same type of filters that were available in the other views, but this gives you kind of a different, easy-to-consume analysis of the cloud and the tests that you have. Report library. So this is the more granular views. As you can see here, let me clear these. Let's clear these and then you'll see. So these are on a test by test basis. Let me look at, so demo pass. This was our manual test that we ran earlier. So you saw this was the screenshot I took. You could actually watch the full recording of the manual test. As you'll see here, we'll skip ahead just to show because this device was alive for a while, but you can see here the different types of things we did. We started vitals, etc. And now when you download, you can download the video, you could download the device logs, you could download the vitals. If there were, let's say an app crash, the crash logs would be attached here as well. And you can download this in a full PDF report that gives you all the steps that you performed as well. Another thing to note about the report library is the smart analytics built behind it, right? So the root cause analysis, that's the word I was looking for. So if you look at the failure reasons over here, you'll be able to see that we actually do the preliminary stack trace behind these tests that you ran. And if we are able to identify the reason for failure, we will. So as you can see, there's a lot of element not found errors. There's some element not interactable. There's session inactivity. If you're a manual tester and you just left the device open and then it stopped, or whatever that may have happened, or even in automation maybe. Pop-up handling, if you have a flow and you're running through a test and all of a sudden a pop-up comes up that your test hasn't handled for and that test fails, why, it was because of pop-up handling, not because, the test wasn't able to execute for another reason. So we try and identify these reasons that we can by doing the preliminary stack trace on these failures, and then we'll categorize them for you. So if they are element not found errors, and you can look at, you know, all the tests that have had that element not found error, for example. So let's look at this test, for example. You know, it gives you the stack trace as well as to, you know, why it failed, what failed. And you can see there's screenshots for all the steps that you've performed. So as you can see here, this is a test that we did on the Perfecto expense tracker app. You see all the different steps that have happened in here, or the commands, I should say, you know, and the find element, the element that was found, etc. So it gives you that full breakdown. And as you can see, you can actually categorize them as well. So if you have an error in here, you know, a stack trace on here that you want to add a custom failure to, you can, and then you can filter them based on those as well. So our reporting really gives you the ability to customize these, you know, not only the reports, but the failure reasons as well, and then be able to categorize them accordingly to really save time, right? You don't want to be looking through your reports forever trying to figure out what happened where. And so our reporting really attempts to make it easy to make sure you can see at a high level exactly what's going on without spending a lot of time in here. Another few things to mention, right? I guess report details, we can show you, you know, the execution, what job, what project executed, I ran this, the different variables involved, as well as, you know, the device I hit, you know, what type of test I was running, etc. You can open a support ticket right off of here. Let's say you saw an execution error that you're not familiar with or you need help. You can contact support for that, and someone should be able to get back to you. I think, you know, non-high priority items like that, it's I think, I want to say 8 hours. So someone should get back to you within the day, though, even if it's like not a high priority item, which is really nice just to have that extra support and someone to help triage. And then another thing to mention is you can create a bug in Jira right off of this report library. So let's say you are integrated with Jira and you want to create, let's say you see something funky in here and need to create a Jira ticket for it. You can click this little bug and it'll actually link that ticket right back to this exact report. So then whoever is working on it can see exactly what happened, as well as the video and the execution steps. As you'll see here, when you run, you know, an automation script like I did here, you can see at what point is what step in the video as well. All right, so I guess lastly, one more thing I can mention is the live stream, right? So as you can see in here, this is what's going on in the cloud right now. So it's a live view of the cloud. So let's say you kicked off a parallel execution of like 20 devices and you just want to make sure that they ran. You can see, you know, who kicked them off, and then all the devices should be popping up here. And you can actually watch them in live time. So it's just a good way to know, you know, are my devices being hit, what's running, who's running them, at what time. All right, so I think that was kind of a high-level view of Perfecto. Did we have any questions in the Q&A that we can answer?
Let's see here. Greg asks, is there a built-in solution for testing Windows desktop applications, .NET, etc.?
So we actually don't test desktop apps. We're primarily on, right, the mobile and web applications.
Awesome. So you addressed this a little bit during the demo too, but this is always a good question, is what are the differences between private and public cloud with Perfecto?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say private versus public, again, right? Public cloud is the 120 devices, a pool of them that is shared amongst all public cloud users. So it's a first come, first served basis. Some other things to note there. I believe they max you out at 10 parallel executions in public cloud, as well as there is a 120-minute test session timeout. So if you have a test that runs for longer than 2 hours, public cloud might not be the best option for you, as well as if you're looking to scale out your executions. Let's say, you know, you need 40 devices or, you know, 30 different browsers at the same time to be able to hit your regression window. Public cloud might not be the best option for that, but what you can do is you can have a combo of both. So you could leverage the public cloud for, let's say, testing on those different devices and OSs, like the new ones that come out that maybe you don't stock in your private cloud right away, but you just need to make sure that, the app looks right and it's, you're not seeing anything glaring. I know a lot of customers do have, dedicated private cloud for their, continuous integration and their tests there. And then they supplement with the public cloud testing to be able to run simple flows and do some ad hoc manual testing, etc.
Awesome. The last question we got in was, our mobile app scans a QR code. Our mobile app scans a QR code displayed on the native app to authenticate login.